Call to order the Monday, February 10th, 2020 Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resource Commission meeting. Roll call. Approval of the agenda. Everybody get a chance to review. Any comments? Motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion?
Second.
Also.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Carried. Approval of minutes, last two. Everybody get a chance to review those. Any comments? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of both meetings?
Motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Open forum. We have none.
None tonight.
Presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Tonight we have Eric Maroon from a company called Finders Keepers. It's a treasure hunt concept that he's come up with, and he's been working in some different parks around the metro area. And with that, I'll just let him come up and present a little bit about his program and what he's proposing to do in Cottage Grove.
My name is Eric. I'm currently in River Falls. Thank you, Zach Doctor, for helping me get here. I knew him from doing tree work in the city for a few years in the parks and stuff. So, Finders Keepers, I started about 4 years ago, and we've just been doing being a part of city events like Hastings and Brainerd. We had combined a treasure hunt with them, but now we're looking at just having our own specific set aside treasure hunts for as many cities or bigger events so we can get more awareness for this. I'd like to, and I'll kind of go over details, but that's all kind of let's see firsthand, and you guys can keep them or fight over them or whatever.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Might have one more.
Oh, thank you.
One more. And then these are, you guys can just pass these around and look at them, but I'll get to those. So I just really wanted to, I've been in construction and tree service and landscaping, and it's conventional business and same up and down you live it, takes over your life. So it's not necessarily fun most of the time. So I just want to create something that a really fun business that could be easily franchisable and spread and get kids away from cell phones and TVs and, which is my definition of my 12-year-old right now. And, but when I get them all doing this with my, his nieces and nephews and stuff, or my nieces and nephews and his cousins, they just go crazy over it and ask me weekly from 6 months ago when we did it last summer, So, but that's pretty much, the real attraction of it. I didn't really make this to go over here, but just it's for adult and children. When they go out and it's a $10 or $20 entry fee, and when they get there, and they usually have an hour or all day, depending on what kind of hunt we're doing. The children, they act like they're going out for the children, and then the children get sidetracked. They see a squirrel and they go on the playground, and then the adults are still searching around for hours, but they act like it wasn't for them, so. But and then they're emailing me and saying, hey, when is the next one? So we just done a lot of private events, and it's just positive every direction, and I could really blow up, I believe. It's something they can do anytime they want to. What I want to do is get exposure through biggest city events, and then have weekly events and daily events where they can just go to the website and pay PayPal or credit card or whatever, and sign up for whatever park they want to nearby them. We have permission in Ramsey County. We can do any park. The Kinney and Willow River State Park is going to have kind of benefit to they can't do raising funds for a company, but they're gonna, to have their own events. So hopefully that'll get enough awareness, but just positive, fun, rewarding activities that always grow in process. Goal of having bigger and more valuable treasures so we can give away, the more entry fees we have coming in as it grows, the bigger treasures we can offer, and just the more it'll explode. So they see it on our website, register, fill out a form for their information so we can mail them gift cards and everything. Once they do, immediately they get a treasure map which is basically aerial photo, shaded or circled the exact area where they can find treasures. So it's real spelled out for them. And we usually don't send out a map to people until like the morning of, because or else they can go out and watch where we're hiding them or, get a head start on it. So what I'm thinking for a city event is we'd have one central location like Kingston Park, I think it is, where you guys put in that awesome playground area. I've been out there a few times and just kind of, watch people, what they like to do and where they go. And I think there'll be a really good central location because it's a big, long parking lot. We had advertised that, this is where you start out and pay for the hunt, but we'd have 3 to 5 parks maybe, or whatever is approved to send them to for, say, 2 hours or something like that. And then whatever they find, so sometimes we hide the agates and gift cards, but what we like to do, just because that's a lot of value and a lot of expense on us, and then it's residual stuff that people would find anyway, so why pay for it, they just go out the next day and find stuff. We hide like a business card or like those gift cards stamped on the back stating what they won, and then we give it to them when they come back, or we mail it to them, or different ways of doing that. So we just be in one spot, they'd sign up, and then we'd send them to different parks, and depending on the amount of volume. We keep it really safe, under 4 feet, so unless it's on playgrounds, so kids aren't climbing trees, and keep the liability down. We do have liability insurance for as much as we can cover for this. It's not a structured standard business to insure. We have a supplemental insurance to try to cover all that. When they sign up for the hunt, we give them 5 free gift cards that are worth anywhere from $50 to $75, just like what you see oil changes or Cabela's, they give out $50. Valley Fair, Carmike Theaters gives free movie, stuff like that. We hide plastic jewels or the agates themselves. So the value of these agates are anywhere from $2 to $5. Retail, if you go to a collector or a shop, each gift card is $10 to $150 value. And what they'll find at these hunts is, we had one Saturday in River Falls, and we had 6 girls. I met a girl at Subway and I told her, and she brought 5 friends. So I'm like, all right, let's have a private thing, and I did an exchange for just testimonials and videos and stuff. And they had so much fun. It was like an hour and they were exhausted walking around in the snow. So they did about probably 45, 50 minutes. But each one of them found 20 to 30 agates like the ones you have. And they found a total of 10 of them that were about 5 to 6 inch diameter agates that are worth about $100 to $150 each. And then they each found about 3 to 4 gift cards. And normally we charge $20 a person for the first 2, and then if it's 3 or more, it'd be $15 a person. So they're getting 20 or 30 times the value back. Plus they're having fun doing it, And it's kind of, I've found it's just really reinforced of support of, like, this is an activity and kids get bored and like, well, what else do we do? I mean, kids go crazy over this stuff, and parents have the security of knowing we're gonna have a good time when we go and do this. It's not just hopefully this will be a good afternoon. Here's some pictures of agates. We sometimes hang jewelry, wrapped in copper wire from trees, and jewelry is agates or flat stones. There's pictures of my son on the left and cousins and a couple of kids that came one day. So I'm just looking at, if there was a possibility of holding one hunt and, learning from that and refining that, maybe having 1 or 2 more, just 1 to 3 hunts a year or something like that are advertised, and help with the marketing and awareness to the school districts or sports teams or, whatever. We have emails or whatever you want to do. If we could post laminated flyers on your bulletin boards where your maps are in the parks, or, whatever we can do kind of yearly, because all those similar people are, you know, obviously come to the park for, you know, hopefully a better reason. I really like to partner with anyone I work with, so, you know, whether it's, paying a fee to use parks, cause, you know, I don't, depending on how much volume we get, or the second or third time, it might take city personnel to, you know, just let people in or whatever, but I do have staff, which is my, basically relatives. So about 6, nieces and nephews between 12 and 18 years old are just on call, and they help me sort agates and prepare and hide, and they just love it. And a few adults from my construction company, they're just wanting to do this full time once it takes off, and buy a franchise. And so I really have a lot of, you know, help and stuff, but, and I guess that's it. Okay. Any questions or?
What's the, like the primary target age group for an event like this?
I haven't really figured that out yet. It's really evenly widespread. I mean, everyone that does it has interest. Like, we went to Battle Creek Park, just the last 3 years, all we've done is just like, I'll sit in the park, and it seemed kind of pathetic at the first few, but it was like, I had so many people come up to me. I just had a fold table and a banner sitting there on the table, and faced by the water park there, and I would say 80% of everyone that walked around my table did it. You know, they'd look at it a few times and they'd just give in and come do it, you know, and they'd see other kids, you know, screaming, "Oh, look at this," and whatever, and then they're like, "What are you doing? Go over there," you know. So it's just, you know, really contagious if people see it. But it's, I mean, anywhere from 3-year-olds to, you know, you watch a 3-year-old find one by a tree, and then they're like, ding, ding, and then they go to every tree and they find one every time, you know, so, and clean me out. But yeah, and then, you know, teenagers and adults, I mean, really any age are just excited about it. We did a Hastings, Rivertown Days, and, you know, they go out and, come back in with 50, washers and gift cards and everything, and, is this, I don't know, ridiculous excitement. I took my wife on to reaffirm her that this is gonna take off, and it was pretty exciting. But
So how many of these have you done about?
I've probably done 50 or 60, just sitting at a park doing that. And one time, a girl, she was like 4 years old, she actually found a 3-carat diamond ring because she was searching for agates. It just happened to be by one of my agates, and it's like, I dropped it there, why didn't I find it, you know? So, but, yeah, it was, people come back to just, I mean, the kids are, I videoed one, and I didn't do a very good job with getting it on here, but he couldn't even, he was like lava, he couldn't hold on, he was just shaking and just quivering because he was so excited, you know, and you drop it, and this was one of these like 6-inch geodes with crystals, you know? And, yeah, so I really want to get, you know, to a point where we're, you know, giving away really big prizes, or, you know, even life-changing stuff at some point, you know, 5-8 years down the road. But it's just all awareness and how many entry fees we can get, you know, so.
How many people do you usually, on average, get to come out? What's the range?
I would say the same people, probably, like, anyone that goes, we have their emails and everything, and we send them updates of our website. But I can see, I do my own website and a little bit of SEO, and in Google Analytics, whatever, I can see, and we see the same people out there, and the same people register like 2 to 3 times a month in the summer, because the kids are bugging them to find agates, and the parents want the gift cards to save $200-300 and all the extra crap they do, you know. We have quick trip free gas up to $8, you know. And so honestly, any place, any vendor I've gone to for gift cards, they throw from 50 to 250 of them are from restaurants. Or I went to Carmack, they gave me 100 free movies, you know. And they all just want to be a part of the concept. And
So most of your prizes are from donations, is that correct?
Yeah.
much?
Yeah, like the agates, I mean, those probably cost me less than a penny, cause I buy like a 4x4 pallet that fills my pickup. I have a ship from Tucson, Arizona, so I mean, they literally cost me 1 to 3 cents for even bigger ones, maybe 50 cents for the biggest ones.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, if your costs are above your entry fee and the city's not kicking any financial assistance, how do you make up the difference and how do you make your profit, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, yeah, I wanna, try to lean heavily on the gift cards because there's more value and they can, it's, they just get a lot of monetary value out of it. And that doesn't cost me anything except for just time getting stuff. And then, the agates and anything else I get for nothing. So I mean, per person, it's probably at the highest $3 to $4, I would guess, in expense to me in product. So,
And then how do you try to control the area? So not that people would do this, but you pay one entry fee, but you have a number of people looking, and if they find something, they give it to the person with the
yeah,
entry
so
fee.
far at the parks, we'd be sitting there and we'd say from 10 to 5 is the time you can just go find whatever you want. We'd have literally, we have 1,500 of them hidden, and we're doing metal detecting hunts too, where we'd just throw quarters in the grass. And then guys that, Facebook groups that do metal detecting, they'd come out and find them, and then everyone also hear the beeping going off and stuff, so. But, yeah, so we'd have, where they could do it all day, but like these city hunts would be more of like, you have 2 hours to go out and come back, so it's time, so we for sure see what they found, and we can, per business card or metal washer or something that they find, we can give them an agate, and then we can take pictures and video. We just kind of ask them if we can take a testimonial, and that'll help us with, awareness and social media and stuff like that, so.
And then you hide stuff the night before, try to keep it secret, or?
Yeah, well, I actually wear high-vis jacket or a vest, look like a city guy. And then, cause people like, oh, you're under here and, you're planting stuff, so, yeah. But, yeah, I've been out at night quite a bit, or right now we have to go out like a week or two early, so that it snows over the footprints, or else they know where to go, so.
Anybody else, questions?
So you would need exclusive access to a park or a blocked off area of a park during these hunts?
Really, the only coordination is giving me a spot for like Kingston Park, or where there's a circle where people can come in, register, pay for it, and then they just go to whatever park we send them to evenly. And then they come back, and it's just one traffic flow of, the first year probably wouldn't be hardly any volume, but I mean, if we go through 3 to 5 of these over 2 years or whatever, I'm sure it would just, be a dozen cars lined up, getting stuff or turning in stuff and getting there, we'd have a booth or something like that, or a camper, something like that to, have a home base. And then, besides that, they just go out. If we send them to another park or 5 different parks and they're looking for treasures, then the people there don't know what's going on, and they're only finding business cards or metal washers or different things that trade in, or sometimes we hide plastic jewels that look like diamonds, different colors, and each color would represent a different size of agate or a different treasure, and so they bring those back, so we aren't worried about the public finding these and cashing out. They'll just know what's going on, and then they'll say, well, you have to go here and do this, And then we go through afterwards, me and my whole staff go through everything and make sure everything's cleaned up really well. And, if it's agates we're hiding, then obviously it doesn't hurt anything unless they're in the grass and too big or something, But we're very conscious of that, obviously, because we want to be nothing but a positive thing and work, and, so.
So this is something then that the families could actually go do, or teenagers could go out and do. Just, depends on the location, the treasure map they pull, or whatever the case may be. They can actually be, 3 miles away, or they can be right in the same park that you are.
Yep.
Okay, I kind of like it. It's kind of a neat idea, actually. So,
Yeah, I want it to be a weekly, almost daily thing. I want it to be daily, but, that just takes awareness, but, where they can just go on and pay, and they say, I wanna go on this date, a scheduled date, And then they don't even know which park it is, but they select Cottage Grove or they select Hastings or River Falls or whatever. And then, they'll know, they get notified out of, what we do is we use Google Maps, so we have all the parks that we are possibly hiding in a certain color, and if they turn red, then they're active. So we just send them one of the red ones at the beginning of the hunt, and then they can go, like Saturday at 9 AM, just say, we'll email you a active park. That way we can control the traffic and, not, let it get too out of hand here or there or whatever, so.
It's a great idea.
Maybe this is the Minneapolis part of me, but would this be like a permitted event then for the parks where we'd have to do a permit or?
Did you say permanent or permitted?
Permitted.
Permitted? We haven't decided that yet, but there'd be some sort of a fee exchange, either a permit or if, depending on what they needed for marketing, it could be a charge per registration, but yeah, there'd be some sort of a permit.
So there's, yeah, the agreement then.
Yeah.
And then,
Just to assure that we know that they're there when they're there and, yeah, we're ready for it.
this might be a weird question. Would the city or the parks have any say in which gift cards are given out?
Oh,
As
yeah,
far
of
as-
course. I mean, my goal is to have, we only have like 25 different ones right now, but I'd like to just get, Cottage Grove. We get stuff from all surrounding cities because it just moves people around, a lot. And so, exploring different restaurants or whatever. But as far as in Cottage Grove, I'd like to go to pretty much everything that has a storefront on it. And I've never been told no, and unless I just can't talk to the right guy, the owner or something, But, yeah, we want to have, 40 or 50 of them Cottage Groves, so people can just, go to places they already know and get free stuff, so.
Mr. Chair, I guess I think in the commissioners, I was just looking for some general feedback, if it's something you think it's worth pursuing or.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a great idea,
Yeah,
actually.
it's a new concept, so I thought I'd bring it to your guys' attention and let you sort through it a little bit.
I think, working in with part of Strawberry Days or something like that would work out. I know my grandkids would love it.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept. Like say, get the kids out of the house and off the phone or the computer for a couple hours.
Yeah, we're working with the state of Wisconsin to, DNR because, I find them, I do a lot of troll fishing and stuff, and I find nice big agates just while I'm walking around. So we're designating certain areas, or I'm trying to get that so we can designate areas to have like a natural setting, finding them, and then that gets kids and adults outdoors for a different reason. And then that gets them just out more outdoorsy in general, which supports everything, so I think that'll go somewhere, but. Yeah, my main goal is just to have my own event, like basically it's called Finders Keepers, Cottage Grove Finders Keepers event or something like that. And it's one Saturday or a Saturday, Sunday designated for this, not part of I wouldn't mind being a part of something else, but we've learned just the cost of doing an effort really isn't hardly worth it. It's kind of a wash, for us. And so, cause they're on an agenda to do this, and then ours is just one of those. So they don't really put priority on it, but and we'd be willing to pay a significant amount to, if it, I know there's man hours and there's, value in your contacts and everything. I mean, whatever we can work out, per volume of, or ways of letting people know, we're willing to cover that or whatever,
Well, Mr. Chair, I think I've got the direction I need, so we can try to coordinate and see where it takes us. But from here, it's probably a conversation with staff and Eric, and we'll see where it goes.
Eric, we appreciate you coming out, giving
All
a
right.
presentation.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, let's see, next up, 2019, 2020, I'm assuming we're, 2020 meeting schedule, no Veterans Day?
Yeah. A mistake on my end. 2020, Veterans Day actually is on there because of November, because it's on November 9th this year. But just looking for a motion to approve the schedule that's in front of you. It's the same schedule it's been the last few years.
So we will meet on Veterans Day or not?
Well, this last year fell exactly on Veterans Day on November 11th. Right? November 11th is Veterans Day.
Oh, okay, so it's not a.
It's not a holiday, no.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the 2020 meeting schedule?
Motion?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, Oakwood Park Master Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. At the last meeting, you guys got a preview of the Oakwood Park Master Plan, which was just in draft mode. Have had some revisions since then, but the concepts remain the same. Basically, when you come in, removing the berm so you can get a good scenic view of the lower basin of the park, which today was unbelievable, by the way, with all the trees with the snow on them. I don't know if you guys were out, but I happened to be down there. It was an incredible view. The addition of the playground for 2 to 12-year-olds. Up on top is more of a teen-friendly space, hangout space for hammocks and benches and things of that nature. A new shelter with restrooms, and then also technology plugins and things like that. So we did add the potential of a sliding hill here with the removal of a couple ash trees and I think one cherry tree. We could make a nice little sliding hill there as well. Whether that becomes just snow sliding only or the sliding, the actual plastic slide we talked about, that might be an option too. But we haven't, the playground manufacturer hasn't quite found something yet to work with that hill as far as an actual slide. So this is your second look at it, just looking for approval or recommendations to the master plan.
I know we talked last time about stairs or access to get down from the parking lot to the field. What did we end up saying on that?
So my vision was when we do this sliding hill, we would incorporate into that somehow, a fall surfacing of some sort. So still trying to figure out that sliding hill. But certainly stairs is something we can do to get people down there. I know we have some stairs on the backside over here already, but they don't go all the way down. So I'll certainly make note of that.
Where would the ball field be in relation, on the left side of the,
It's straight down from that sliding hill. Basically, the sliding hill ends up in the outfield
oh, okay.
where it flattens out.
And I like the idea of potential future parking expansion, because I know, I've been up there when it's really been packed.
Yeah, especially during T-ball games.
So any other, you have anything more, or questions?
So going to the teen space, so I did talk to some of my friends, and a lot of us do have our own hammocks to go, like, mocking, it's called, like in the woods or whatever, where you just hang up your hammock and like you sit and read. So I don't know that it would be, someone mentioned this last time, that it wouldn't be necessary to have hammocks already there.
Yeah.
And so if that's an idea, just to have the posts sit up so we can bring our own hammocks.
No, that's actually a great point, and actually something someone else had mentioned to me, that apparently teens all have hammocks now, so. I was unaware. Yeah. It's the trend, so no, I appreciate that feedback, that's great. Any other comments?
There's no other comments. Do I have a motion to approve the Oakwood Park Master Plan?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second? We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Glacier Valley Park Master Plan.
So this park is along East Ravine Parkway, and then to the east is County Road 19. Obviously just a master plan at this point, but as the East Ravine area develops, it won't be too long before this park happens, but we wanted to make sure we have a master plan ahead of it because it is our next larger community park. So the commission has seen this, I think this will be the third time. We've reconfigured some things, had to change some spacing on there and other areas we've had to modify. So just giving the commission one last look at it and hoping for an approval to approve the master plan or provide comments if you feel otherwise.
What's that skate area? Is that looks like skateboarding or?
The lawn skate area is more of a free rink, so a winter recreation rink, winter
Okay,
skating
all
rink.
right.
Yeah.
Are those tennis courts or are those, what is the new-
Pickleball.
Pickleball, those are actually 2 tennis courts and a basketball court,
Okay.
but certainly the courts can all be modified as we get closer to that design point stage.
Is currently, how many pickleball courts do we have?
3. We have 3 that are dedicated. We have a couple that have pickleball lines on them, but those don't seem to get used very often, so. Yeah, there's probably, it's a need that's growing. We'll have to figure out a community park for those at some point.
How hard would it be to modify like a current tennis court, just one tennis court into 2 pickleball courts?
Not that difficult through
Just reline it?
the restriping process, and we restripe every 4 or 5 years or so. We restripe the courts, so those are the opportunities to do things like that.
Tennis popularity's kind of leveled off, or?
Tennis ebbs and flows. It was on the increase up until about a year ago, and now it's kind of stabilized again, but actually tennis was making a nice comeback.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Maybe because of the help of pickleball too, I don't know, but, yeah, tennis was actually making a nice little comeback, and now it's kind of stabilized again, so. Tennis courts get used.
Will there be any sort of a warming house for the facility out here at all, or see that, like I said, with the skating?
That
and
park
ice rink,
facility would be a
hockey rink?
warming house as well.
It will, okay.
Would there be fences around each of the tennis courts separate, or is it one kind of like over by the high school where
There'd
it's?
probably be a fence between the basketball and the tennis courts, and then around the perimeter. Typically, we don't put the fencing between the tennis courts, just because
Yeah,
people run into
I
them.
didn't think so. I just saw the line.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve the Glacier Valley Master Plan?
Make a motion.
I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. How am I pronouncing it? Posavad property?
Posavad.
Posavad property park master plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. This park, or future park, is located just north of Oakwood Middle School. So if you're looking at the map that's on the screen, this bottom roundabout where my cursor is, that's the roundabout that takes you into Oakwood Middle School. So 65th Street runs east-west. And then north-south is Geneva Avenue, which is next to St. Paul Park and to St. Paul Park. So in this, and then Peter Thompson, you can see on the far east side. So this Bailey Woods is the new development that's likely happening next year, and then this development would likely start sometime next year as well. Through development, and I'm not sure how it will be phased, but at some point, acquiring this wetland over here, which I did provide the Natural Resources Management Plan, which talks a little bit about the history of the property and what's there. Not overly significant in terms of natural resources, but there is some wooded areas. Obviously, this is a very large, I think it's our second largest body of water, well, not including the Mississippi River, but second largest body of water besides the Mississippi River. So it's significant, so we want to protect it, we want to get people to it. Really trying to keep it natural. So people would walk, the trails would walk through. There'll be a combination of paved trails and natural trails, and then also a boardwalk to actually get out on the water. And these are just examples on the left of what a boardwalk could look like. There's a few different examples. Obviously, there'll be trail rest stations and other things. And then with the city council and workshop, we talked a lot about parking and then also visibility to the park. So if you have that white piece of paper that I handed out just a little bit ago, that's actually phase 2. That's hot off the presses. I just got that this afternoon at about 2:00. So that's actually the developer's retake on it after the council gave some direction about opening up the vista to the park so that you can see as you come up that road, I can't remember the name of the road, but as you come up that main corridor, you'll see it opens up to the park so people will see it and then they'll know that's a recreational opportunity. We haven't identified the actual parking. There should be our goal is to have a combination of a handful of parking stalls, probably like Pine Tree Valley Park, but then also that is a wide road there, so on-street parking would be available as well. It does tie in nicely to Peter Thompson Park, so it could be passive part of Peter Thompson Park, but I know that also the developer is talking with the landowner and there might be some interest in historical interpretation of the property or perhaps even naming of it, so we'll continue to have those conversations. Looking for feedback, this is, like I said, this is a second draft, but looking for feedback and guidance from the Parks Commission.
Is that body of water there, is that like marshy or is it actually open water?
It's open water. If you Google mapped it, yeah, it's mostly open water. It does get a little bit marshy on the edges. I know it's a good waterfowl spot, so
That'd be
lots of
something.
ducks and geese and.
So would there be something, would be like a fishing pier where they stack it or they have pedal boats
I don't
down
believe
there?
I don't believe it's deep enough for fishing. I think it's 6 feet type deep. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's not, I don't believe it's deep enough for fishing.
I think there's a body of water that's just adjacent to this, if I'm not mistaken, is it not? There's where they're having issues with trying to think of the name of the lake. They were trying to name it. About a year and a half ago, remember that?
Are you thinking on the east side of town, on Jamaica, that was the Roberts Lake?
Roberts, okay.
Yeah, that's on the east side of town over by Shepherd Woods. That's the biggest one. This is the second biggest one, biggest lake.
I thought there was one up by Oltman, though, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it? Another one that was way set back there?
That would probably be this one.
Okay.
Because right now you can't see this
Okay,
body of
all right.
water.
Okay.
And I've never actually been to this site. I've been trying to get there for a few years, but I have not been able to get there.
So there wouldn't be any kind of playground structure or anything like that, it'd just be,
No, not at this point. Seeing it more of trail and, natural. The connection, obviously, there's a paved connection to Peter Thompson Park. We see that as the main active area for playgrounds and ball fields and things. We are gonna try to protect as much of the tree stand as possible, and, any of the wetland areas that are worth preserving, we'll try to protect those, and then what we can't protect, we'll take out and restore to some sort of native vegetation. There's a pine plantation, there's an old oak forest there, and then there's some good wetland around there too.
Is that all single-family homes that are going in, or is
Correct.
there any other, just single-family?
Yep.
There's villa style and some traditional single-family homes in there is what's being proposed right now.
All right, any other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion to approve the Posavad Property Park Master Plan?
When is this supposed to be all done?
Do you have any
What's the
details on
timeframe on it?
timeline?
They'd probably start grading in 2020,
Okay, all right.
fall. Yeah.
It'd be a phased development, so this
Right.
could be in a future phase. It could be 3, 4, 5 years out.
All right.
Right.
So again, it's out there. Do I have a motion to approve the park plan?
I'd make a motion.
The second rendition. That's on your
What's
desk.
it?
The rendition that's on your desk.
Yeah, this one.
Yep. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I made a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we're down to presentation of information, City Council Strategic Planning Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to share with you the first draft of the City Council Strategic Plan Report. Back in early January, I think it was January 4th, the City Council met with staff and talked about where the city is and where the city needs to go, excuse me, and developed a strategic plan. And also that brought that plan back to another group of staff. Met again on a city council evening, with the city council on an evening, and then reconfigured it once again after meeting with a more extensive group of the staff. So this is where we're going. It's just a draft. We're still filling in these actual goals in the black, where we actually, achievements or milestones that we'll be looking to accomplish. So there'll be a lot of detail that comes behind this, but this is the draft picture of where we're going in 2020, and it's probably a 3-year strategic plan, but we'll revisit it each year and make sure that we're staying on task. So just presenting for your information, as you can see, there's a lot of recreational goals and visions in there, so that's a really good thing. Any comments or questions, we can take them.
No, looks good. We'll move on to the Park Superintendent position.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the commission, just wanted to make you aware that there's some organizational changes happening in the city, down at Public Works and also in the Parks and Recreation Department. We've reinstated a superintendent position. So many, many years ago, there were superintendents of all divisions: parks, utilities, streets, parks, utilities, and streets. And the foremen have been doing that job for the many years in between, and now we've reinstated the superintendent position. And I'm happy to announce Jim Foreman, who's been with us since 1996, in the position.
Jim is so old, he was there when I was there. That's how old Jim is.
Yeah, so we're happy to promote Jim to that position, into the management position, and I'm sure great things are in store, and you'll see a lot more of them now. good or bad.
All right, great. Congratulations, Jim.
Congratulations. So is there gonna be a superintendent for the streets and utilities divisions?
Those have already been appointed as well. The streets foreman, Gary Orloff, was promoted to superintendent, and then the utilities foreman, Rick Alt, was also promoted. And all those positions were posted out to the public, so we received, I don't know, probably 75 or so applications. And then we interviewed both internal and external candidates, and the 3 internal candidates all were given the position, so, yeah.
Good. All right, action updates, community center.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The community center discussion continues. We're working with Leo A. Daly to put together the educational brochure. That's the biggest challenge we have right now, is trying to make sure that we get all the details we need for the voters onto a nice, easy-to-read flyer, and also publications, whether it's social media postings or things like that. So working to compile all that information and making sure the whole intent is to make sure that everybody can see themselves as a user of the community center in one way or the other. Doesn't seem like it would be that hard to do, but there's a lot of little details that go into developing a brochure like that to make sure people understand what the community center is, why they should or should not vote for it. At the end of the day, it's up to the voters, when the vote is, and things of that nature. So really combing through it with an extremely fine-tooth comb, and hopefully we'll have something for you by the next meeting to see. And then the goal is, once we get that brochure done on the staff level, then we'll bring it to commissions and the athletic association and, advocacy groups that we think would be good at reviewing that and giving feedback, and then we can take one more shot at finalizing a draft. So we'll be looking for feedback in March from the commission.
All right, warming house services.
Molly, did you want to take that one? Sure. You ready? Or did I surprise you?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. So we wanted to provide a quick warming house update for you guys. It wasn't something that we necessarily widely published throughout the community, but we have totally changed how we are operating our warming houses this year. So in the past, we have had a site supervisor at each of our different warming house sites, who that staff person would go to that building, work that building, whether it be a weeknight shift or a weekend shift. They would track the attendance, moderate it, everything, go home. So on any given night, we were paying from 5 to 8 staff to sit at a warming house site, whether 2 people showed up or whether 100 people showed up. Many years ago, we also cut back, so perhaps a park like Harside was only open Tuesdays and Thursdays and Sundays, and a park like a Peter Thompson was open, opposite nights of the week and an opposite weekend. So what I worked with Zach to propose this year is we hired a warming house supervisor. So we were able to pay a few more dollars an hour, which helps our seasonal staff. Obviously, I think a lot of businesses and a lot of people are having trouble getting people in at that $10, $11. We upped it to $14 an hour. We were able to open every warming house site every day and increase the hours. So the partnership that we've worked out with the Parks Department is they maintain and clean the warming house buildings and sites, same as usual. But what they do is then they leave the buildings open after probably by 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Our site supervisor comes on at 4 and then drives one of our city vehicles around, monitoring and checking on all of the facilities every night. Tracking attendance still about hourly. It's about an hour to kind of make the whole loop. And then they also are able to monitor and head out to Old Cottage Grove when hockey association teams are out there. So we have definitely exceeded our attendance expectations. So I would say we are comparing attendance right now, apples to apples. We're tracking every hour at every facility, but it's one staff person working and doing all of that. So we have cut our budget probably in half, increased the hours that the parks are open for residents to come in, use the bathrooms, use the warming room, use the drinking fountain. We've probably increased those hours by about 40%. We have had minimal incidents, so we're keeping our fingers crossed. Like I said, we haven't necessarily publicized that that's what's happening, but knock on wood. It's going really well, so hopefully we have a few weeks left still. Our hours on the weekdays are 4 to 9 o'clock. Anytime after 8:15, if they're at a park facility and no one's there, they are starting to lock the buildings to get them all closed by 9. Weekends, we are open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. On the weekends, we do overlap for about 3 hours. Those are our heaviest peak times. So if 2 staff are working, they overlap for about 3 hours so that they're able to get to their rotation schedule on their parks a little bit quicker. So kind of they pull up, most of them are driving my vehicle. They have a high-vis vest on, they kind of do a lap around the rink, they go in the buildings, check bathrooms, check floors. Every park has a book. Check attendance. I kind of say it like a Target bathroom sign-off sheet. They sign off that they were there, they checked everything, and then they get in and they go to the next one. So the biggest incident we've had is we've had 2 fire extinguishers pulled, but that's like minimal. That's not a big deal in our world at all. So if that's the worst thing that happens, IT has been really great. They're checking, so all of our parks have cameras in them. So they've been checking pretty consistently to make sure all those cameras keep working. So yeah, it's been a great project for us to take on this year, and we're kind of learning as we go. But Brad, our recreation supervisor, will be here in February. So we said March won't be quite ready yet, so probably, yeah, March he will be here, right? March will be the next one. So Brad will do a full presentation at the March meeting to give a full update and kind of where we're at. We're also tracking attendance at Armstrong this year, which we've never done before because there's no building. So that's also something that they're tracking. So hopefully it kind of gives us a bigger, broader picture of everything that's going on in the parks.
Have you got any input from the public? Because I would think no news is good news. If things are working, people aren't going to call.
Yeah. We've had a couple incidences where people would forget, other parks guys go in, or other public works guys go in, use the restrooms, use the facilities, and be like, oh my God, the door's unlocked, and think they're doing us a favor and lock it. That happened a few times the first couple of weeks, but I think everybody knows now the plan, but that's really the only thing. We've had no feedback, but like I said, it's not like we're like, hey, we're doing this now. We kind of wrote the job description vague, and we kind of kept it vague that that's what we were doing, so.
I can say, I went to Woodridge on Thursday,
Okay,
and it was great. It was clean, it was open. I do worry a little bit because all the kids just left their phones laying around, but, you know.
I think that's the route we're going, because it happens at the hockey rink too. It happens kind of, I think, everywhere, so I think cell phones aren't a big deal like they were to us 5-10 years ago, so. Yeah, so far so good.
All right, thank you. Sounds like it's working.
Yeah.
Commissioner terms.
Just going back to item C real quick. The park map, each year I put together a park map, or park improvement map. So just some things as you're driving around or talking to residents, if you see dirt moving or hear nails pounding, that's some of the bigger projects we're taking on beyond the day-to-day things that we do, all the time. So just want to get that in front of you, and you can keep that handy. Moving on to the commissioner terms, just a verbal update, because everybody that was on the commission has re-upped. So we'll have the same commission in 2020, which is awesome. So
When would our last meeting be for the 3 of us?
February 28th is the official last day for all commissioners. So that last meeting in February will be your last meeting, but there's always a chance something could be scheduled between there and the end of February. So February 28th is the last day
Okay.
of 2021, just to be clear.
And then we have nothing else going down to the workshop, is that correct?
Staff reports, just wanted a few
Oh,
things.
staff reports, I'm sorry.
The different divisions have provided their updates. If you have questions on that, feel free to ask. I did put a park map in front of you, so each of you has those. Those are also available online. Takes a ton of work to get these done, believe it or not. I don't know, about 78 renditions, it seems like, but we finally got it done and printed off. And then also the 2019 annual report, which was put together very nicely, but, and it has a lot of good detail in there and highlights Parks and Rec amongst all the other divisions.
And where are these located in City Hall?
So they're at City Hall, they're at Public Works, they're at the ice arena, they're also online. I'm sorry, the map is online. That actually, the rest of it's not online, but we put them everywhere we can. If you have suggestions, we're happy to distribute them wherever. I'm told by City Hall staff, it's the #1 piece of literature that goes out of here.
Two more for the family.
I got plenty. I got plenty. Yeah, so that's always kind of cool. They always ask me for additional maps because they said it's the hottest ticket on their flyer board, so. Just wanted up, so the annual report, talked about that. Pine Tree Valley, Pine Tree Pond Trail Crossing or Crosswalk, that is going to the Public Services Commission in March. So I know there was some concern over that, so if anybody's interested in being a fly on the wall in that meeting, they can just email me and I can get you the date. But they'll be talking about that at the March Public Services Commission. That's all the staff comments I have, unless anybody else.
Okay.
And then there's also council agendas for your review or questions if you have them.
Any commission comments? Council comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am not Dave Theedy. He is supposed to be here this evening, but Dave is away on business, so as we often do, we sort of substitute for each other when the situation calls for it. I am Justin Olson. I appreciate the fact that you allowed me to be here with you tonight. I always enjoy spending time with the Parks Commission, and it looked like there was a lot of great stuff on your agenda this evening. In terms of what the council's been working on, you had an opportunity to see the strategic plan document that has taken quite a bit of our time and energy since the new year turned. I'm not sure if you had any questions on that. If you do, I'm certainly willing to answer those. But what I'll tell you as a broad overview is the strategic plan is something that the council works on with staff every year. And really, it's intended to be a 3-year forward-looking document. So it is a document that is intended to guide by priority what it is that staff and council will be working on together year over year. You know, there's so many doggone things that we want to try to get done that you just can't get them all done sometimes in a 12-month period of time. So what we try to do is we try to map out what are the things that we feel are most important for the community, and then we take that and we try to subset those things into what might be a this year, what might be a next year, what might be a 3-year out thing. And then, of course, when you do the exercise again the following year, you review that information and you decide if that is still the direction you want to go. Does the budget support that? You know, do we have the right people in the right seats on the bus, as they say, to make sure that those things happen? So, again, I'm willing to speak to any of that if you'd like. Some other things of note that I wanted to point out based on the council agendas that you might find interesting. If you look at your January 15th agenda, you'll see that there were a number of outdoor recreation grants that were on the consent agenda that might apply to the work that you folks are doing for the city. And clearly you can see that staff in the Park and Rec Department are very focused on making sure that they're trying to find dollars anywhere they can to help upgrade our parks, our trail system, et cetera. One of the key items in this consent agenda, however, is item J, which is the West Point Douglas Road Rehabilitation Project. For those of you who you know, pay attention to social media at all, that's one of the things that we get beat up about quite a bit is West Point Douglas and the roadway. So this is an item here on the agenda that is guiding that we're going to be doing some road improvements, and there'll be a public hearing around that because that roadway has deteriorated to such a point where we really need to give it some pretty serious attention, and we want to make sure that we involve the public in that. There'll be some sidewalks that are going to be part of that project, in addition to some curb and gutter and a lot of road rehabilitation. So I simply wanted to point that out. We also had the Woodward Ponds preliminary plat on there and the Posavad property, which you got to take a look at tonight. And then with regard to the February 5th council meeting, which was, you know, very recent here, a couple of things of note on there. We did pass along our 2020 legislative agenda items to our legislative contingent. So that would be Representative Tony Juergens, Representative Van Claflin, and Senator Carla Bigham. We also spent some time up at the Capitol with them a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if any of you were able to come, but you know, staff, council, and a number of residents, I would say all told, in the neighborhood of about 70-some people. Got on a bus right out here in front of City Hall and drove up to the Capitol and spent a good amount of time with our legislative representatives. Got a chance to tour the Capitol, speak to them, in a conference room about the things that were most important to us in terms of our community and what we were hoping they might work on this year. And of course, they're going back to work here pretty quick. So, hopefully they've heard our voice. They also had a open house in the training room this past Saturday. Councilmember Dennis and I were honored to attend that, in addition to our County Commissioner Wayne Johnson and a number of residents. So we've certainly been in communication with our legislative contingent. They know what it is that we're looking for, and looking forward to a really good session up at the Capitol this year. It's a bonding session. It's not a budget session, so hopefully they won't be fighting quite as much. It just depends on, some of the things that they're trying to put front and center because it's an election year. So we'll sort of see if everybody plays nice in the sandbox. In addition to that, we had a couple of issues that we dealt with on the last council meeting, one of which was a rental license denial hearing. We had a property management company in town that wasn't really playing by the rules as it relates to our city ordinances relative to rental licensing. And so our city attorney, Corey Land, spent some time presenting in front of the council our options as it relates to how we might want to hold this property management company accountable for their lack of foresight and follow-through with keeping their properties safe and habitable, and getting all the paperwork and documentation, inspections, et cetera, in for the rental licenses. And ultimately, what we did is we ended up denying some of their rental licenses because, frankly, they simply hadn't done the work that they needed to do to ensure that any inhabitants of those properties would be inhabiting properties that were safe and that met all of the city codes and had been inspected thoroughly by our city inspectors to make sure that they were up to code. So that's not something we do very often. In fact, this is my 9th year on the city council, and I don't remember a time that we've done it up until now. So pretty serious message was sent to this property management firm, and my hope is that they'll take that seriously and start to change the way that they do business. And with that, I will open it up to you if you have any questions for me. Otherwise, that's really what we've been working on over the course of the last few weeks.
Hey, Justin, you're talking about that West Point Douglas construction
Yes,
work?
sir.
Is that entire road gonna be repaved, or is this gonna be patched up?
Well, when you say repaved, so there's a few different ways that we go about working on roadways. One of which is what we call a mill and an overlay, and that's what you'll do when a road is in need of rehabilitation, but it's not too far gone. And then there's a total reconstruction, and the total reconstruction is when the asphalt has essentially failed, and you also have subsoil issues. And in this particular case, it's pretty shot, so it's going to take some significant rehab.
What's the funding for that one? Who's gonna be funding that? Because I know a lot of buses actually travel over that road,
Sure.
which is probably one of the larger reasons that thing is failing.
Right, well, we
Fast
were
as
hoping
possible.
you might. I don't know if you got your tax return back yet or not, but if you did, you can certainly write us a check, City of
Yeah.
Cottage Grove.
Get in line.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, we have a policy that we follow for any kind of roadway improvements. That policy spells out what we have to do with respect to, whether it's general tax liability or if it is assessed tax liability. And there are always assessments that go into these kinds of projects, and those assessments have to be supported by a benefit assessment that takes place. So there's an impartial third party that comes in and they actually do the math, as it were, and they try to identify who's going to benefit from the actual road improvement, and then can we support that if we were to assess those property owners. So there'll be a mixture of both of those that go into funding that roadway improvement, as it would be if it was your street or mine.
Right.
Any other thoughts, questions? Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned to workshop.